with which we convert the 64-bit original key into 56-bit key. Then we take a left circular shift, then permuted choice 2 function. So with the help of this permuted choice 2, we extract 48 bits to create the final key for the operations, and this 48-bit key goes to our rounds, the different rounds. Similarly, for round 2, we create K2 with the same method. Similarly, for R16, in this way we create the 64-bit ciphertext on the sending end. To obtain the plain text from the ciphertext, we follow the reverse process. Let's say we get the 64-bit ciphertext on the receiving end. We first pass it through IP inverse. This IP inverse means, the first function is IP. This IP will find out 50, it will extract 56 bits from this 64-bit ciphertext, and will apply R16 to R1 in the same reverse way as we had done the sending end, and finally IP inverse to find out the original plain text of 64 bits. So this is all about your DES. We have 16 rounds in DES. In the standard DES we have 16 rounds. If you want to increase the complexity of the ciphertext, we can increase the number of rounds, but in the standard data encryption standard we have only 16 rounds of encryption with 16 different keys, R1 to R16. This was all about your DES. And now like we have a 64-bit key K1, and again we have a 64-bit key K2. So here we have 16 rounds, again we have 16 rounds. So now this is the implementation of DES with two keys. So we have one encryption algorithm E1, another encryption algorithm E2 with two different keys, and with the help of this we are securing the content, and on this end we are applying the reverse process to find out the original text. Now another way of this is uh, again here we are using two keys with a different process. We are first encrypting it through K1, then we are decrypting it with K2. Class, please understand this thing. We are not using here key K1. If we'll use key K1, again we'll get the plain text P here. But we are not doing it. We are to increase the complexity in the data. We are using a key K2, which is different than your K1, and we are using a algorithm called the decryption algorithm. And again we are passing this data through an encryption algorithm with the original key K1. And now this data is ready to move on the communication link. On the receiving end, we'll apply the reverse process. Like for this encryption, we are applying the decryption with key K1. For this decryption, we are applying the process of encryption with key K2. Again, for this encryption, we are applying the process of decryption with key K1, and we'll get the original plain text P. So this is the test with two keys. Now we'll discuss about the digital signature standards, DSS. Okay. So why do we have DSS? The digital signatures are applied over the any software or any soft copy of data to ensure the authenticity of the sender. Authenticity means the content is generated by the original sender, and there is no during the communication period uh, there was no any malicious attack over the data. To ensure this thing, or to increase the authenticity in the data, we have this DSS, because in the in case of the virtual world we cannot apply the physical signature, so we apply the digital signature. And digital signature is just like suppose if you are creating a document, and if you are signing below the document, that means you are liable for whatever written in the text. So similarly, the sender is producing a special key along with the data, and this key moves along with the data on the receiving, and we apply certain process to find out that whether the data has been changed during the communication, or it is a genuine data. So this is the DES, the block diagram of DES. What we have here, we are using a plain text P, and we are passing this plain text P through an encryption algorithm. Class, understand this thing. We have a plain text P, and we are passing this plain text P through an encryption algorithm along with the private key of sender. Class, here we are using KR of sender. That means the private key of sender. When we are passing this plain text P, so I mean output of this algorithm will be in ciphertext, that is EKR of P. Okay, and EKR of P we are sending along with the plain text P. Okay, now we are sending this plain text P without any encryption, and we are sending this special keyword, that is the encrypted form of the plain text along with this data. Now on the receiving end, what we'll do, we will decrypt this the encrypted part along with the data. That means the signature EKR of P is decrypted with the public key of the sender. Like let's say if you want to open the yahoo.com page, you will use the URL of the Yahoo. That means the public key of the Yahoo. So we are using the public key of Yahoo to decrypt the page, and here we are using decryption over this part of the data. That means the EKR of P. So output of this will be plain text P, and we are going to match these two content. So if you can see that here we are applying a check function or matching function. If the two values are same, we consider that the data has not been changed or there is no duplication in the data. And this is how the digital signature standards are implemented. So again, I'll repeat this topic. So what we are doing here, we are sending the data, this plain text P, along with its signature. Signature, how we are producing the signature? This symbol is called this parallel line symbol is called the appending symbol, and this means we are appending two things: the original data, along with its uh, its signature. And how these signatures are produced, we are passing this data through a encryption algorithm along with the private key of sender, and output of this will get the signature. So we are sending the data along with its signature, and on the receiving end, what we are going to do, we are going to check the signatures. If the signatures are valid, we consider that the data is also valid. If the signature is not matching with the data, that means this part of the content has been changed. So I mean, if there is no match, we consider that the data is not authentic, and we have to go for the rectification of the same. This is about the digital signature standards. So there is an algorithm of digital signature standard, but we won't discuss that algorithm in our syllabus, because this is the part of cryptography syllabus actually that you will study in your fourth year. Because I mean, cryptography itself is a syllabus, and if we are going to give more time cryptography, it will take a huge time. So without wasting our time in cryptography, without investing our time in cryptography, we are moving ahead to cover the next topic of this syllabus. So, class, you can tell me if you have any doubt about cryptography. This digital signature standard or test. I'll repeat the content. Otherwise, I'll move further to cover the next topic. That is again from the cryptography only, and that would be the last topic of Unit 4. After that, we'll start Unit 2, the remaining content of Unit 2. Class, if you have any doubt, you can tell me, please. If you have any doubt about the digital signature standards. Hello. Class, if you have any doubt, you can tell me. Otherwise, I'll move further. विषये अदिति अदिति that there is no doubt for this topic, then I'll move to our next topics. Okay, and the next topic is RSA. RSA is an algorithm which is an implementation of the public key crypto system. There were three scientists, RSNA. I don't know the name of scientists actually. I'm not able to recall the names. Revit, Schmidt, and some Anderson. So there were three scientists. They have developed this algorithm, which is an implementation of the public crypto system. And here we are using. I mean, the entire cryptography is based on the application of prime numbers. Prime numbers are used to create the public key. I mean, the keys. As I told you in the beginning of this topic, cryptography, no, there are limited number of algorithms, but we can create infinite number of keys. So to create the infinite number of keys, we are using the prime numbers, because no, prime numbers are non-divisible, and if we are multiplying to large prime numbers, it takes a lot of time to the hacker or any attacker to find out the actual numbers from where the multiplication product was produced. And as long I mean, during this time, the message will be delivered to the destination, and after that there is no meaning of attacking over the data. So cryptography is nothing but just an application of the prime numbers. So RSA is one such algorithm in which we use the prime numbers. And how the prime numbers are used in this RSA. For this, I mean, you can take any two prime numbers. Let's say if we are taking 17 and 23, if you multiply these two numbers, and if the product is now if the product is used as a key, and with the same components 17 and 23, if we are using the public key also. So because the numbers are too large that we use for producing the public and private keys, so it takes a lot of time to find out the actual numbers, to divide the numbers, to find out the factors of that product. And as long as the intruder apply the different methods to find out the factors, the data arrives on the destination, and after that there is no meaning of attacking or cracking for the data. So in the RSA, what do? We take two large prime numbers. Large prime numbers, it can be a 10-digit or 15-digit prime numbers, P and Q. Okay, and where the condition is P should not be equal to Q. So we are taking two large prime numbers P and Q, where P is not equal to Q, and we find out the product. As I told you, we find out the product of these two prime numbers, that is n equal to P into Q. Now we find out a function phi n, which is actually a Euler Totion function that you have learned in your discrete structure subject. So we are using one this Euler Totion function phi n, that is p minus 1 into q minus 1. Phi n is defined as p minus 1 into q minus 1. Now we have two things. One is n and another is phi n. N is the product of two large numbers, and phi n is Euler Totion function, which is the product of p minus 1 and q minus 1. Now we select an integer e. This is the integer e, such that the both the two numbers phi n and e are um, relatively prime. That means there is no common factor in phi n and e. Plus, I'll repeat what we are doing here. We are first we find out the first we select two large prime numbers p and q. Then we calculate n, which is the product of p and q. Now, after this, we find out phi n, that is p minus 1 into q minus 1. Phi n is defined as the Euler Totion function. Now we select an integer e. There is no condition over integer e, just a single condition that the phi n and e should be relatively prime. That means there should not be any common factor. GCD of these two should be 1. Greatest common divisor of these two numbers should be 1. That means the number should be relatively prime. There should not be any common factor of these two numbers. Now after this step 4, we are going to find out the public key and private key. How I mean, the private key is very easy to find out. We take simply this number E and N. The combination, I mean, the combination of these two is called the private key. And public key, how do we find out the public key? Public key is the D and N, where D is defined as E inverse mod of phi n. D is defined as E inverse mod of phi n, or we can also represent this value as D equal to 1 upon E mod phi n, or we can also show that we can also say that D into E equal to 1 mod phi n, or I mean as per the properties of this these no this modulus function, we can represent this value as 1 equal to d mod phi n. This is called the this is one of the property of the no, mod function. If a equal to b mod c, then we can define that b equal to a mod c. If a equal to b mod c, then b equal to a mod c. So this is a property of modulus function. So we are using that property here to find out the value of d and e. D equal to e inverse mod phi n, or we can say that d into e equal to 1 mod phi n. So with the help of this, we find out the value of d, and then after that we create two keys, public and private keys. Public key is defined as d into e, private key is your e into n. Now here I mean how will convert how will get the cryptography value or the ciphertext. C is defined as the ciphertext, which is equal to p to the power e plain text to the power e mod n class. Understand this thing? Ciphertext C is defined as p to the power e mod n. This is how we produce the ciphertext. And to get the plain text, what we are doing here, on the receiving end, to decrypt the ciphertext, we are applying a calculation, that is P, plain text P equal to ciphertext C to the power D mod n. And and the method of remembering this thing is ciphertext equal to plain text to the power encryption E mod n, and plain text P equal to ciphertext to the power decryption mod n. I mean, so on the encrypting side, we are using the encryption E and as a keyword, and for decryption we are using keyword D for decryption. So here I mean, in this we are explaining the properties of that mod function also. So if you want, I can repeat this topic. The RSA is it's an important algorithm. It comes in the examination also. Uh, First of all, we'll take two large prime numbers p and q. Then we find out product of these two prime numbers p and q as n. Then we find out a modular a function phi n, which is p minus 1 into q minus 1. That is called the Euler-Dirichlet function. Then we select an integer e such that e is no, relatively prime to phi n. That means there is no common factor of phi n and e. Then we find out the value of d, which is e inverse mod phi n, and this is how the value of d can be derived. D equal to e inverse mod phi n, or d equal to 1 upon e mod phi n, or d equal to 1 mod phi n, or also we can say that 1 equal to d mod phi n. So I mean, this is how we find out the value of d. And after that, when we get d or on the in our hand, we will create the public key as d into n and private key as e into n. I mean e and n. And for no ciphertext, for producing the ciphertext on the sending end, we are using calculation, that is c equal to p to the power e mod n for encryption, and on the receiving end for decrypting, or for getting the original text, we are using the function p equal to c to the power d mod n. So this is the modular function, or the remainder function. So now based on this, we are using, I mean, we are going to discuss one example. Consider n equal to, here we are directly getting the value of n equal to 119, e equal to 5, d equal to 77, and now find out the value of, I mean, how this center will send a character f. using RSA. I mean, these are the values, and based on these values, we have to demonstrate the sending of this function, the sending of this character f using RSA. So, because RSA is the sixth letter in the English alphabet, so we are using 6 in place of f for completing the calculations. Here, the values are directly given to us. N, E, and D are directly given. So we are going to apply these values here. To get the ciphertext C, we are applying plain text P, that is 6 to the power uh, E, that is 5. So to the power 5 mod N, and N is 119. So with the help of this, we'll get N equal to 41. This is this is the remainder function actually. The meaning of this is when we are dividing 7716 by 119, the remainder will be 41. Okay, so this is your ciphertext on the receiving end. To get the plain text in the original form, what we have to do, we have to apply the function p equal to c to the power d mod n, and that is c is your 41, 41 to the power d is 77 mod 119, and because there is no any attack over the data during the communication, so the value of p will come 6 only. Plus you can check by your own calculations, this value will come definitely 6 because there is no change in data. And if you want to clarify it, take some other value of d or n, and you will never get the plain text p in the original form. So this is how the RSA can be implemented and demonstrated. So this is about RSA, and this is how the demonstration over the RSA can be done. Class, with this topic, I am completing my Unit 4. RSA was the last topic of Unit 4. Unit 5 was already completed, and Unit 2 remaining part, I would like to start from the next lecture, because I mean this much of content is sufficient for you people to think about it and to revise it once. If you have any doubt, we will repeat some of the topic of Unit 4, because I have completed the Unit 4 very fast. And if you have any doubt, if you want me, I'll repeat the topics of Unit 4 also. But the next lecture we'll start our Unit 2. Class, if you have any doubt, you can tell me. Otherwise, I'll wind up the session for today. Uh, because RSA is sufficient, you can use the book of Ferozan to to revise the content. If you do not have the book with you, you can you can take the help of notes, or you can just text me on my mail ID cs@phid.ac.in. I will send you the soft copy of Frozen. Class, you can write down my mail ID cs@phid.ac.in. I will send you the soft copy of Frozen. Okay, so if you have any doubt, you can you can go through the notes or book, or still if you're not able to clear the doubts, you can get back to me in the next class. I'll repeat the content. Otherwise, I'm going to finish my lecture today, and we'll meet tomorrow, or Friday. Then we'll start the next topic, that is Unit 2, the remaining part of Unit 2.
हेलो
Class,
सर।
if you have any doubt, you can tell me. Yeah.
सर मतलब इस सेमेस्टर के इस सिलेबस में सिर्फ आरएसए एल्गोरिदम है एन्क्रिप्शन में
Sorry.
की। सर
हाँ,
ये
I mean,
कंफर्म करना था कि
बिल्कुल
आरएसए की
बिल्कुल
ओनली
RSA
एन्क्रिप्शन।
RSA and DES, RSA and DES.
ओके सर।
Okay, data encryption standard and RSA. यही दो algorithm. Otherwise, if we are going much into the cryptography itself is a complete syllabus. There is a book of William Stillings of around 1200 pages, which is dedicated to this course only, cryptography. So
ओके
we
सर।
are not going much into the cryptography. I just want to cover the important topics of cryptography, which normally comes in the AK2 examination, and those are important for you at this time. And then the
ओके
remaining part you will cover in your next semester.
ओके सर। थैंक यू।
So still, if you have any doubt, you can tell me. Otherwise, I'll wind up the session, and we'll meet tomorrow for no, Unit 2, the remaining part of Unit 2.
Hello, sir.
Okay. So with this, I am. Yeah. Tell me.
सर टेस्ट में जब plain text IP function के अंदर जाता है
Your voice is very slow. Hello, your voice is very low. Please
Yeah, hello sir.
keep the mic closer to your mouth. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello sir, am I audible?
Yeah.
सर जब डैश में प्लेन टेक्स्ट आईपी फंक्शन के अंदर जाता है तो वहाँ पे वो जो डिवीजन होता है 32 बिट्स में अलग अलग वो किस बेसिस पे होता है?
Actually, there are functions. In this, no, you're talking about this part. 64. I'll repeat this. I'll share my screen just a minute. So you're talking about this part, no? 64-bit
Yes,
to
sir.
56 bits. So we are randomly selecting the 56 bits out of 64 bits based on this function. There are functions to extract the number of bits from the plain text. Okay, so there are special functions. And each round of this is a very complex mechanism actually. So we are not going much into the details or details of these things. This is the overall algorithm of this.
Okay.
Hello. So
Yeah,
this
sir,
is the
okay.
random selection of bits. Out of 64, we are selecting the 56 bits.
Okay, sir.
Okay, and again we are using an inverse function to find out or to enlarge the content into the 64 bits from the 56 bits. This is the inverse or the reverse process of that.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Akash.
Yes, sir.
So with this, I'm winding up my session for today. We'll meet tomorrow and we'll cover the remaining part of Unit 2. Okay. Thank you very much.